Christopher Nolan has had a dream career. After making his debut feature for a mere $6,000 and then garnering an Oscar nomination for his fantastic follow-up Memento, Nolan shot into the spotlight with Batman Begins, a film which felt like Hollywood was finally nailing the gritty feel superhero films like Daredevil and Blade were attempting to do, and moving away from the more light-hearted fare of Raimi's Spider-Man movies. Through his Dark Knight trilogy, Nolan was given carte blanche to create his own original films, and this solidified him as a household name, and the director you watch when you want to get a little confused, and have fun doing it. With Oppenheimer, we have arrived at what seems to be the next step in Nolan's career. He is taking everything he's learned from the last 2 decades, making high-budget spectacle films, and using those tools to tell a biography as big as America itself. In what may be one of the biggest risks in his career, emerges his best film yet. The film depicts J. Robert Oppenheimer's life in non-linear order, and following 2 perspectives. The first, Fission, in color, tells Oppenheimer's life through Oppenheimer's perspective, his personal ambitions, beliefs, and motivations as he saw them. We see his optimism and drive to bring quantum science to America and push the subject forward into uncharted territory. We follow Oppenheimer as he goes from this ambitious young man into an anxiety-riddled and broken soul as his original ambitions create the atomic bomb and change the course of the world into a much more dangerous place. The second perspective, Fusion, shot in beautiful black and white IMAX film that was created especially for this movie, tells an objective story, more like one that was recorded on film and in the newspapers at the time, as Oppenheimer is subjected to a hearing about his security clearance, which then becomes an attack on his past political affiliations and personal secrets. The perspective is more from our film's antagonist, the Atomic Energy Commission chairman Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., in his best role in over a decade. This is Nolan's most political film, not just in taking on the subject of the atom bomb, but in the shockingly positive view he gives to the Communist Party, and the thoroughly antagonistic depiction of HUAC, connecting the brightest minds with an ideology that's been smeared by the US government in extremes, especially today, is a bold move for a wide-release film. It was a welcomed one as well. This film marks a truly earned career high for Cillian Murphy, who delivers one of the finest performances of the year. We are with him for the film's entire 3-hour runtime, and he commands every single frame. The camera is inches away from his face as we see him in his ups and his downs. We sympathize and understand Oppenheimer's anxiety and horror after the bomb is completed, and his beliefs change to one more of a pacifist. Many of the supporting performances are also excellent. Josh Hartnett, Benny Safdie, Matt Damon, and Gary Oldman were all memorable. Gary Oldman was only in one scene, where his final line, one verbatim from history, left my audience shocked and awed. This film is packed to the brim with star power. Huge actors come for a few minutes and leave never to be seen again. It adds to the grandiose quality of Oppenheimer as a whole. Unfortunately, one of the film's biggest flaws reside in the female characters. Emily Blunt, who plays Kitty, Oppenheimer's wife, while giving a wonderful scene late in the film, suffers from Christopher Nolan's issue with creating fully fleshed out female characters. Throughout his career, I can only think of Murph from Interstellar as a female character with more than one dimension. Kitty spends most of the film being drunk, acting out from postpartum depression, and raging at Strauss. I can see a wonderful character in there somewhere, and in this 3-hour film there should have been plenty of time to let her breathe more. Florence Pugh suffers the same fate as Jean Tatlock, Oppenheimer's love interest and mistress. She acts like a crazy woman who can't live without Oppenheimer, following many of the same beats as Kitty. Where the film is the strongest and where I don't think it will be beat by any other film this year is in its cinematography. This is the most beautiful film I've seen this year in both color and black and white. The crisp images, the practical effects, the Trinity test scene that exceeded every high expectation I already had. Hoyt van Hoytema has somehow outdone his already incredible repertoire. Every wide and close-up felt entirely justified and pushed this film along at its breakneck pace. We were promised a loud film, and that is what was delivered. Unfortunately, Nolan's frustrating sound mixing is still prevalent. I don't believe Christopher Nolan has ever given a legitimate reason for why every level on the mixing board has to be at a 10, and if he plans on continuing down this road of more mature filmmaking, he needs to adapt to a more mature sound design. That being said, when the high sound levels were justified, they were exceptional. The use of sound to extenuate Oppenheimer's anxiety during the rally scene post-Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the briefing scenes were properly used and created quite a bit of anxiety in the audience. I watched many people cover their ears, frightened of another loud boom. The awkward pacing of Nolan's previous films is left behind to create some of the most propulsive editing of any film this year. His twisting of timelines and perspectives is thoughtful. The film's biggest editing challenge is the final hour. The tension of waiting for the Trinity test to commence has subsided, and we now have to pivot into a courtroom drama. It gets off to a slightly rough start, but the cross-cutting between color and black and white is taught to us gently in the first 2 hours. So when Nolan is ready to let these two timelines rip across each other at breakneck speed, not many audience members are left behind. In fact, we're as exhilarated as when the bomb was exploding. As I stated before, it feels like we're entering a new era for Christopher Nolan, one that was hinted at in Dunkirk but not yet fully matured. And what better subject to start this new era with than America entering its own new era in science and weapons? I think Christopher Nolan saw a lot of himself in Oppenheimer. Perhaps his own Trinity test was the wave of influence post The Dark Knight that led superhero and other big-budget Hollywood films in the direction he didn't anticipate or calculate while creating it. I hope Christopher Nolan stays this course, leaving behind the CGI-riddled action and sci-fi films to create operatic American dramas, to give a breath of fresh air to a stale genre. After this, he seems like the man for the job.